Please. My name is Carly Rice, she, her pronouns. I'm the sustainability coordinator here for the Twin Cities campus at the University of Minnesota. And you are logging in for the second session of our sustainability coffee chat series for the fall semester. This is a series that's been going on for a few years now, and we're really focused on climate related topics currently after the implementation of a new climate action plan and climate resilience plan. So today we are going to be talking all things solar for home and business owners. We'll have some practical information. And I think we've got three great speakers here with varying perspectives. So we will go ahead and jump right in. Just want to make sure that we are recording, and we are. Wonderful. All right, so we have three speakers today. As I mentioned, they will each kind of introduce themselves, their work, their perspective on this topic of solar and how it relates to climate. And then we will go into some informal discussion and conversation questions for our panelists after that. So today we have Jennifer Lindahl from CERTs and also UMN Extension. We have Bob Blake from Solar Bear, and we have James Ayer from Siming Solar. So we've got three great panelists for you today. I think what we will do here is I think I'd like to start with Jennifer, and then we'll have James go second, and we will finish up with Bob, and then we'll have some time for questions. All right, so I am going to go ahead and stop my share. Jennifer, I'll hand it over to you, and you can go ahead and take screen share if you've got some visuals.
All right, thank you. Just give me a moment here to set up. We'll see if we can get this. Oops, let me go back here. All right, can you all see my screen?
We can.
Perfect. All right, so, oops, going back here. Sorry, it started without me. I am Jennifer Lindahl, and I do work for the Clean Energy Resource Teams, or CERTs. I am the Southeast Regional Coordinator. I just want to give you a little bit about, get a little bit of information about the Clean Energy Resource Team. So we are a statewide partnership. We're committed to empowering communities and the members of those communities to adopt energy conservation, energy efficiency, and renewable energy technologies. Whether that's in their homes, their business, or any local institutions. So CERTs is all about connecting to resources. So whether that's information, tools, funding, people, our goal is to empower communities around renewable energy. We work with all sorts of community partners, cities, counties, utilities, residents, tribal nations, businesses, and we do a lot of work with underserved communities. So CERTs is making a big impact. We've awarded a lot of money through our seed grants to just under 500 projects. We've impacted a lot of people through the grants, the events that we host, and programs. And we've helped a lot of Minnesotans save a lot of energy and a lot of money. As I mentioned before, CERTs is a partnership. So we are a partner with the University of Minnesota Extension, the Great Plains Institution, or the Institute, excuse me, the Department of Commerce, and the Southwest Regional Development Commission. We have staff all throughout Minnesota. So we have 7 regions, and there is a regional coordinator in each of the regions. Again, I'm in the Southeast. We also have steering committees in each of the regions. Just to show you how we're made up through those partnerships, we have 4 executive directors, 3 co-directors, and lots of staff throughout the state of Minnesota. So I want to share with you some of the programs that CERTs works with. Green Steps. So Green Step is a sustainability best practices program. So it's geared towards cities and tribal nations, and it's a voluntary challenge that has 29 best practices, and those best practices help cities achieve their sustainability. So it could, and quality of life goals. It could be anything from bike trails to energy efficiency best practices, and it's free for communities to join. Another program is Solar for Schools. So we work with schools from the understanding of the grant. The grant is through the state of Minnesota. So understanding the grant all the way through to applying for the grant and installation. Another program that started this year is Solar for government buildings. So one of our goals is to reduce the energy burden for all families to under 5% of their household income. If we're all in on energy, not only weatherization and energy efficiency, but our renewable energies, we certainly can make this happen by 2025. We work again with underserved populations. One of the examples is working with manufactured home parks. We work with utilities that service the manufactured home parks to purchase things like light bulbs, water heat pipe insulation, weather stripping, furnace filters, things like that. And then the CERTs team goes door to door at delivering these boxes to the residents of the manufactured home parks. We also work with food shelves. We assist on energy products, again, navigating the funding, assistance on maybe we're working with the outreach to shoppers. We've had AmeriCorps members in the past that really did a lot of work with these food shelves. We also work with rural grocery stores, again, funding for opportunities, and then energy audits. We work a lot with Greater Minnesota businesses and farms through the REAP grants and PACE grant funding as well to get solar site assessments and hopefully installation of solar. Earlier this year, we announced that we did an update to our Energy Ambassador program, Community Energy Ambassadors. So as an ambassador, anybody can join. There's a QR code that you're welcome to scan. I'll take you to the information on our website. So Community Energy Ambassadors support clean energy projects within their community. So if this is something that you choose to get involved with through the program that we have, you'll gain access to knowledge and skills needed to help others in your community participate and learn more about the clean energy transition. We're here to support you along the way, whether that's one-on-one, so you can reach out to regional coordinators within your area, whether that's through our website we have recorded resources, and we have live webinars as well. Our goal is to train ambassadors in all of the 87 counties in Minnesota by the end of the year, and we are still working on that goal. So Community Energy Ambassador, one of the ways to become an ambassador is through this self-directed training. And again, this is a way for you to learn about clean energy, to take it back into your community and help yourself and your community along this this transition into the clean energy. So this is a self-directed path. Again, webinars, recordings of webinars that have already happened, and again, you can reach out to CERTs staff like myself. All right, I think that gives you a good overview. I'll stop sharing. Did anybody have any questions? Or are we, I guess I don't know, Carly, how are we doing this?
Thanks, Jennifer. That was great. I would say if we have any quick and pressing questions, we can get to those now while they're fresh in people's minds. Otherwise, maybe more complex questions,
Okay.
let's save to the end. So anything pressing for Jennifer right now that you don't want to forget about? Okay. We'll have plenty of time for discussion at the end. So Jennifer, thank you so much. We've had multiple speakers from CERTs and Great Plains throughout this series. So they offer some really fantastic resources. All right, with that, we will kick it over to James.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And Jennifer, absolutely love what CERTs does for the community. So fantastic presentation and good to see you. I will start sharing my screen. Let's see here. All right. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So my name is James Ayer. I'm a manager and senior consultant at Wolf River Electric. We're one of the larger solar installers in the state. You might have seen our billboards around. We do homes and businesses and nonprofit organizations. We also work a little bit in Wisconsin, Iowa, and the Dakotas. And I'm also the owner of Siming Solar, which is a small solar consulting firm. I just kind of wanted to go over just a little bit of a status update on solar in Minnesota, and then maybe get a little bit into the weeds. We can get our hands dirty a little bit with some of the details on some of the practical knowledge of solar. So for Minnesota, we're ranked 16th for total installed solar capacity. So for as far north as we are, not bad when it comes to 50 states. We have about 2,824 megawatts installed, and that's about 4% of the state's total electricity, enough to power 406,000 homes. And what's really exciting is that over the next 5 years, we're projected to add that amount to our grid. So definitely a lot more to come. And prices have declined about 43% in the last 10 years, with plenty of jobs that are coming our way when it comes to the solar industry. Incentives, there are a lot out there, and Jennifer actually touched on a few of them. Number one is the federal tax credit, which is 30% that people are able to be eligible for. There's a lot of talk about actually getting a 40% federal tax credit for domestic content. A lot of that is mainly in the works and a little bit down the road. Businesses can take advantage of depreciation benefits as well. And then there are utility rebates. It really depends on what utility you have. Xcel Energy is a very popular one around the Twin Cities. And they have a fantastic one called Solar Rewards that both businesses and homeowners can take advantage of. So it really depends on which one you have. Some of them don't have rebates, some of them do. Always good to check in and see what they have to offer. There are grants. We work with a lot of farmers and rural businesses to get the REAP grant, which Jennifer mentioned, which can be 50% of the total cost. So when you take into account a lot of these incentives, suddenly a lot of your costs for solar are basically being taken care of by a large portion. We've seen some recently where 90% even are being covered, if not 100%. By incentives. So really exciting, and definitely helps when it comes to those that need assistance, right? The Green Cost Share Program is another great incentive, specifically in the city of Minneapolis, where they focus a lot on, they're basically paying usually businesses and affordable housing when it comes to trying to give them funds for their projects. And that's usually, there's also the aspect of environmental justice as well. So there are certain areas that qualify. And I always recommend, if you're interested in finding out, what other incentives are there out there, and this is a great website, even beyond Minnesota. If you look at Desire, they actually have basically a big directory of incentives that you can kind of break down in terms of rebates, loans, grants, etc. You can always check out their site. How to pay for solar? A lot of different ways. Number one, obviously, is cash if you have money on hand, but that can be challenging for a lot of people. So there are plenty of other options that you can go with. Lease is not as big of an option in Minnesota. It's usually just available for certain businesses. But I think you really take advantage of the most of your solar system through the other options, either if you have cash on hand or if you go with a loan, right? You can talk to your local bank or credit union. A lot of solar companies might have other solar financiers, although they sometimes come with what are called dealer fees, where it actually adds a fee onto your loan. So you take out a larger loan than if you went to your local bank or credit union. People use home equity lines of credit sometimes. And then we have there's a terrific partner, Center for Energy and Environment here in Minnesota, a wonderful nonprofit that helps with various energy efficiency programs and other clean energy initiatives. And they offer solar financing as well. We've sent a lot of people their way, and they will continue doing great work in the state. And Jennifer mentioned the PACE program as well, where you actually can pay for your solar through your property tax. So different ways of going about it. I think it depends on everyone's situation, but there's plenty of options, that's for sure. Lots of benefits when it comes to solar. I think we all know that. But just to I guess highlight a few, there's net metering. And in the state of Minnesota, we have great net metering programs where what net metering is if you generate more electricity than you need, you actually get the utility will credit you on your bill, so that financially there are times where you might not have an electric bill at all, because if you generate extra electricity, then the utility will keep track of it, tack it on. So even in the winter when there's tons of snow, maybe not quite as much sun, and it's very cloudy, you can still benefit from that solar because in the summer you had lots of sun and generated credits for that. Tax exempt, solar is tax exempt for your property, and it actually adds property value at the same time. So two great benefits right there. If you can't, some buildings are probably not great for solar. I think if you have a very old roof, if there are trees all over the place, you can actually benefit from community solar in the state. And that allows you to kind of basically be on a subscription program where you're still getting your energy, or at least paying for solar and receiving credits for that. So that's a fantastic thing we have in Minnesota that not all states and areas can benefit from. I love to touch on batteries because I think they provide a great benefit, but most people that go solar don't actually get batteries. You don't need them to necessarily to have solar, because you're always connected to the grid. However, if the grid goes down, it's good to have a little bit of backup power. And I think there are certain states, especially in California, where they can benefit a little bit more from having batteries, and especially those that don't have net metering programs. Right now, we're in a good spot in the state where we might not necessarily benefit a ton from that, but if there are people that might have medical equipment that they need on 24/7, and batteries are definitely a wonderful way to make sure that we continue to have electricity. Lots of savings. I think that's one of the biggest things is a lot of people move towards finding ways to really reduce their electric bill. And I think the average savings, it really depends on your particular place. I see probably an average of $30,000 over 30 years, depending in terms of savings. It can be a lot more. Sometimes it can be a little bit less. It really depends. Usually those that have higher electric bills can benefit more from that. And the payback is usually around that 10-year mark. Again, very depending. I think people don't realize even the direction that panels are facing. I mean, south facing is the best way to be. If you have panels that are on the east and west, it actually probably less of savings and less payback over time. And then, of course, climate is obviously a very important piece. I mean, a lot of people that I talk to are, it's all over the political spectrum these days. I think some are really looking for just the financial piece. But there are, of course, those that really do care about climate change and the fact that we are in that crisis. And adding your piece. I mean, there are times when if you're in your house and you're generating electricity, but you're generating more than you need, that's actually going back to the grid. You're contributing to the community, to your neighborhood, and cleaning up the grid. I wanted to kind of talk about the process. If you were going to go through it and kind of check it out yourself, I always recommend to people at least check it out, right? See what solar looks like for your home, for your business. Number one is get quotes and get multiple quotes just to compare and contrast, see what people are saying, find those common grounds and seeing what they say. Make sure you're talking to a reputable installer. And then once you find one that you really like and you're ready to go, then things start normally with a site survey, where they have someone come to your place of business or house, and they check out your roof, your electrical work, and make sure everything looks like it's good to go. They'll have engineers. They'll put together a system design, which is step number 3, and they'll take care of all of that for you. Work with permitting, which is basically just permits to the city. They always have the city and the utility that are involved in the process. So make sure you get permits. Install, of course, which is everyone's favorite day when they see those panels go up. And then the city comes back to inspect the work, make sure it looks good. And a utility like Excel will give their approval and make sure everything's good to go. And you'll be on your way. And usually this process takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months, really depending from start to finish. So it's good for people to be aware of what to expect when it comes to getting solar. And lastly, I wanted to kind of tie this up with just some basic facts when it comes to climate. I mean, we basically have an initiative here. Governor Walz signed a 100% by 2040 law where we're trying to address those net zero emissions in the state by 2050. And going solar definitely helps us do that. A lot of utilities are really ramping up and trying to make sure that they're getting to that, but every bit helps, I think, and businesses and homeowners can certainly play their part. An average solar system reduces about 4 tons of CO2 equivalent per year. It's about 432 gallons of gas per year. And it's the equivalent of planting over 100 trees. So it's nice to always have those visuals. And lastly, I think that there's always work to be done, right? We can get better and better, and I think there are still emissions, right, when it comes to solar panels, especially with mining those materials that are needed. So there's a lot of efforts to make sure that we're recycling these materials, even that are and even during the manufacturing process, bring those down, having more domestic manufacturing. To ensure that we're doing more and bringing those emissions down to really hit those net zero targets. And that is it. So I'm going to stop sharing. And any quick questions?
Thanks, James. Any pressing questions for James? Okay. We had a great question in the chat, but I'd love to pose that at the end. I could see some good discussion happening. So with that, we will turn it over to Bob.
Hey everyone. Ani bonjour everyone. Good to be here. I am trying to get my slide deck here. Okay. Sorry about that. Everyone having a little bit of technical difficulties here.
No worries, Bob. That's how we started this session. I was having the difficulties, so join the club.
This is not working for me, everyone. Sorry about that.
Do you have slides or something that you'd like me to share? Or a visual?
Yeah, I wanted to share my slide deck on basically how we went through the process of putting together a commercial solar project on a reservation and the different uh, the diff how we started out. I'm just gonna freestyle this, everyone. Sorry about that. Apologize for the difficulties. Um, yeah, my name is Robert Blake. I am the owner of Solar Bear, and about 7 years ago, we put together myself and a gentleman named Ralph Jacobson put together a solar project for the Red Lake Nation, and there are some different obstacles as opposed to doing a solar project, say out here in Excel territory, as opposed to the reservation. And yeah, there you go. You could just look at the website. Um, I think I believe I have the slide deck on the website too. Anyways, uh, the one of the main considerations that I think that we had to figure out was, can we do the project right, and can we get financing? Because a lot of banks won't lend, on tribal country. So we did we actually uh, went ahead and crowdsourced the money. Luckily, the state of Minnesota has a great has a great has a great program where you can go ahead and invest in community projects, and that's exactly what we did. We used that, and we then went ahead and installed an 80 kilowatt solar project on top of the Red Lake Government Center. Um, because of the ITC, the investment tax credit that is available from the federal government, we are now making our last payment back to our investors that invested into this community project, and the Red Lake Nation will then take control of this control and ownership of this project here. So I guess the reason why I wanted to show that particular project was because for business owners, there's a lot of different ways to go ahead and get your projects financed. And because of the federal and state incentives out there, it seems to be like a good match for especially business owners to cut your carbon emissions and go ahead and save also money for your business. Likewise for homeowners, same way. There's a lot of federal incentives out there right now. I think the gentleman from Wolf River did an excellent job at showing the opportunities on that. And like I said, there's plenty of organizations out here. MNSEA, the Minnesota Solar Energy Industry Association, CERTs. There's a lot of good trade organizations out here that you can go ahead, Google, and they could go ahead and give you good information on various opportunities out here that can save you money as you're doing your installation. And another thing, the gentleman from Wolf River, yeah, getting three quotes. Like if you're a homeowner, is a good rule of thumb. And a lot of the installers that are located on the MNSEA's websites, go ahead on there, take a look at there, get three of them, and they will be happy to get you some type of solar site assessment to see if your property could go ahead and fit. And once again, everyone, I am sorry that I could not. I don't know. I'm having technical difficulties on my side to get my slide deck up, but I'm open to any and all questions. Feel free to reach out to me. And sorry, Carly, I apologize about that, but that threw me off.
No, that's okay. And if you have slides that you wanted to email to me, I would be happy to share them.
Yeah, I can email to you right now. Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so everyone think of all of your pressing questions while we take a quick hiatus here. All right, I'm not seeing anything come through. Maybe it's just taking a second. Thank you for those questions in the chat. Maybe we can tackle one of those while I am trying to get Bob's slides. What is a good tool for an average person to understand the regulatory world for renewable energy in Minnesota? Understand barriers, challenges, etc. So any of our three speakers have a quick response to that?
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, we've got some great advocates out here that have done a great job, advocating for renewable energy in the in the state. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, you got it. Um, anyways, I would once again, Mencia, Clean Energy Economy in Minnesota, Greg Mast. I mean, they're doing wonderful, wonderful work and getting, you know, opportunities. Carly, do you want me to run through this real quick? I could do that real quick.
I think that would be great, Bob. Once now we've got our visuals here, I think that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, let's just do this real quick, everyone. Hey, everyone. In Red Lake Nation, northern Minnesota, we saw that we had a high content of mercury that was being put into our lake, and we decided that we wanted to go. We decided that it was coming from North Dakota. It's falling into our waterways from a lot of the fracking and coal that was being burnt out there. So the Red Lake, it's very important to the people of the Red Lake Nation. It was actually the walleye population we were finding this high mercury content. So that's our oldest business. We wanted to do something about it, so we decided to go through renewable energy. Go ahead, next slide. This was just one of this is just this is just an example of how it, and if you're able and if you want to be able to go ahead and think about how you want to plan out maybe something on a commercial building. This was just some of the goals of the phase one. So next slide. Questions to be answered. Do a feasibility study. So those are just some of the things that I would recommend if you're thinking about especially a commercial project. Next slide. Here's some of the questions we had to put into the feasibility study. 12 months of billing history. I always get those 12 months of billing history. Next slide. Here's what we found out. And go ahead, next slide, Carly. Oh, this is called the duck curve. So as you can see, the evening peak is always goes up because everybody comes home from their day of work and they're starting to cook dinner and be with their family and turn on the television. So how do we deal with that? Storage. That's how we deal with that. Go ahead, next slide. This was part of the campus load over at the college in Red Lake. Next slide. There you go again. Next slide. And then this is where we were putting storage into the peak demand area. We have installed batteries on these projects up on the Red Lake Nation. Next slide. Here's some of the kilowattage rooftops. Next slide. Yep, here's another solar power being generated during the sunny day. Next slide. So on the casino. Here's 2 stages of the phase 1 project that we've been doing, and then of course completing. Next slide. This picture of the Red Lake Government Center. This is this thing that's gone national now, and I didn't even realize when we were installing this project that this thing was going to go all over the world, but it has. Next slide. Just a visual top of a solar array. Next slide. The casino building that we're doing. Next slide. 5 megawatts here. Next slide. And this was just the timeline. This you could put this back about a year, 2 years now. But these are the projects that we've completed. Next slide. And this was the finance model that I was talking about. Federal tax benefits through Red Lake crowdfunding encourages local investment. The ownership flips to Red Lake in the 7th year, and of course we added storage systems into this. And then we've also received some. Oh boy, up to this point, we've received about 30 million in grants now to continue to do our work in Red Lake. Next slide. There you go. And there's my information. Thank you, everyone. I wanted to be quick with that. I know kind of messed that up, Carly.
No worries at all, Bob. We are flexible here. Thank you so much for running through that with the visuals. The building with the eagle on the front, that is just so stunning.
Well,
Um,
and then Carly, real quickly, I want to
mhm.
say too, like, I mean, when I worked on the Tribal Energy Advisory Board up at the state capitol, we got that passed, and everyone out here listening, I mean, if you feel so strongly about something, I just want to remind everyone that the legislators work for us, and so go up and visit them, go up and talk with them. They're very approachable. They're very, and so that was really how I got that started, and we got that passed legislatively last year. So I saw that question on the legislative process.
Thank you for that.
The democracy is a participation. There you go.
It really is. Well, we have a few questions in the chat that I would like to pose. And again, thank you to Bob and our other speakers for sharing. So we've got just over about 15 minutes for some discussion and some questions. So from Caitlin in the chat, how many buildings do you come across that, due to having a rubber roof and or being older, cannot hold the load necessary to install solar? And are you familiar with folks who do retrofitting and structural work for such buildings?
I could answer that actually. I would say it's good to understand, no matter your business or your home, the condition of your roof. I would say about, at least from what I see, about 10% of the roofs that I come across, whether they're asphalt shingles, metal roof, rubber roof, 10% probably need to get redone before solar. So certainly we come across those that have rubber roofs. Normally those are, flat roofs that will have a ballasted system, which is actually, the panels are held down by weights. And yeah, we're certainly familiar with people that do retrofitting and structural work. We actually have a construction division ourselves where we'll actually do that work, but we always recommend, reaching out to others, and we always have recommendations of people in the community that can help you do that.
Thank you. Another question from Billy. With all the recent storm damages in the South this week, I'm sure we are all seeing that on the news. The destruction is devastating. How are insurance companies handling solar panel replacements? Any perspectives on that?
I haven't caught up with that yet, everyone, but I will say though that insurance providers across the country, because of climate change, are rethinking their business model. To say it bluntly, everyone, whether it be wildfires out in the west, flooding on the east, insurance providers are trying to get out of, I mean, listen, I don't want to say that like that, but paying a claim, is just a business, decision now. I mean, and so I think it's a much bigger question. Like, is the house even, or the property, like, even habitable? Can you, with that the solar is actually putting on? If you look at some of these, pictures of the homes and the businesses that have been destroyed by these recent events. I think probably solar is probably one of the last things. But for the most part, though, you can go ahead, get insured for it, and honestly, I mean, I think that the insurance companies I like to think that they're all going to do the right thing. So you can get them insured and have them on your home. Absolutely.
Thanks for that, Bob. Kelsey in the chat asked, could anyone share their thoughts on solar over parking lots? Which we have some of that on campus. Kelsey, I don't know if you've seen that. We have some over on West Bank. But thoughts on installing solar over parking lots?
I don't want to go again so soon, but we're actually working on one right now, and I absolutely love them. I think it's important to take into account your options, right? Because I think buildings are the best because it's infrastructure that's already there. Um, it's going to cost a lot less. I think some of these parking lots end up being pretty expensive, much more than say on the building or a ground mount. But if you have limited options and the roof is unable, you have no place for a ground mount. I think they're wonderful. They shade the cars. They're producing solar energy. I certainly wouldn't say no to it. I think it's good to evaluate your options before deciding for sure we're gonna go forward with the carport. But definitely an important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and I would just add, I mean, you can, if y'all are want to see, kind of a carport situation, obviously over there at the U, but Solar Bear did one over on Lake Street at the McGeezy building, and so when we did that project, you know, like we're talking about here, James just said, to put on a building or ground mount is a lot, it's going to be a lot cheaper. I think the big thing there is like the steel. We found that the steel was super expensive, and we were like, asking the client, should we still do this project on, your carport? And so they were very committed to it. So that helped, right? But so you want to make sure that everything can be financed and everything can, be, yeah, there it is. That's it right there. So that steel was super expensive, and that right there was, I mean, literally, we didn't know if we were going to be able to make the project pencil. So just to let you all understand that, take into consideration the steel that they have to hold up first and make sure that it does. But other than that, though, it's a great benefit to the community, to the project, and the customers absolutely love it. So
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there's definitely benefits of having solar over a parking lot, shade for the cars that are underneath it. I mean, there's definitely a lot of benefits. Snow keeps off of the cars. But like James and Bob said, it's a significant investment. So there are other options, but if that's something that it's the only option that you have, it's definitely a good option, but you do have to take into consideration that cost.
Thank you all for your perspectives on that. I think I'm caught up with our questions in the chat here. So I'd love to open it up again. You don't have to raise your hand. Please just unmute and share any questions or thoughts that you may have. Any questions at all? Is everyone being shy? Okay, well then I will jump into some questions. Um, Bob, I'd love to know what is next for Solar Bear. I'm hearing the name more and more recently. What projects do you have coming up, and kind of where do you see your trajectory?
yeah, I mean, we just received about 30 million in grants from the DOE, FEMA, you name it. And so we'll be building some microgrids up on the reservation and doing electrification community solar project for the community. We're going to be doing very exciting. Be doing a power purchase agreement with a major institution. We'll be making a press release on that when it comes out. And then we're also working with some to build a very large utility scale project. And all this has been made possible by the Inflation Reduction Act. Big shout out to Pete Wyckoff, our Minnesota commissioner here, who was a big instrument in getting that legislation passed on a federal level when he worked for Senator Tina Smith. So I don't think that a lot of those incentives would be there for tribal nations if he wasn't there. I just want to throw that out there. But anyways, so really excited about those projects coming up. We got a couple of landfill projects that we're doing, brown sites. And then we're doing some wood racking. Everyone, we're doing this one project with wood racking. So that I like doing these really weird projects, right? Because I just want to see if they work actually. So and we'll be doing that. We're doing that at a brownfield site, and we're working with a professor out of the University of Ottawa, I think it is. Who's his specialty is compressed wood or something, and so that's how we're doing that. So really excited to showcase those, and we'll have them done in the next couple of years. Actually, the utility scale is going to take till 2029. So
Thanks, Bob. What other questions folks have?
Hey, Carly, it's Cassidy. I got a quick question.
Hi, Cassidy.
So I'm wondering where things are at as far as integrating solar or other, climate friendly type of infrastructure into new construction, especially multi-residential housing, apartments, condos. I see so much new build going up, especially multi-residential housing, apartments, and that like in urban areas and other. And are people putting solar in at the beginning, or what's going on with that?
That's a fantastic question. Anyone have any insight there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is being done, not at a scale that I would like to see, at least. I think, you think about the benefits that come from solar, and a lot of these developers that are putting up new buildings might not see those benefits or as much as they would like to see, right? They might get a tax break, maybe some depreciation, but in terms of like the electrical savings, I think they don't necessarily see all of that. I think there definitely is some, and we've talked with some people, whether it be homeowners or business, that are looking to do that. Normally they complete, I would say most of the time that I see is they complete the new build first, and then as soon as it's completed, then they add the solar, because you want to make sure your electrical is good to go, the roof is good to go. So I'd say it's definitely happening, but I would love to see it quite a lot more.
yeah, and I would add to everyone on the call here that listening, like we also got to take into consideration transmission. We got to take into consideration that we have unfortunately Roosevelt technology that we're using right now that we have to replace, everyone. So and that costs money. So I kind of like there's a code in California where new residential housing needs to have solar on top of it, right? And I think it's those building codes, it's those kinds of things that obviously we're advocating up on the state capitol, but it's like put the horse before the carriage, like and we really have to take care of this transmission issue too. So being able to provide that grid that can go ahead and handle all this renewable energy being put onto it is really important. So I think that's one of the key issues right now, not just here in Minnesota, but across the country, like literally across the country.
I'll just add, I agree. I'd love to see more solar installation, but then also there's that interconnection, and we have so everything's moving really fast and moving really slow at the same time. But I think too, it's education, and James had alluded to contractors and developers. They just don't know, and it's not just solar; it's heat pumps and other new technologies. And James had also brought up CEE, or the Center for Energy and Environment, on the environment, and they are doing contractor trainings, which has been super successful. And so if you go to their website, you can find contractors that have gone through the training specifically for heat pumps. Um, and it really is that education part. The more people know, the more that it becomes standard, we're going to see a lot more solar and other technologies um, happening. So great question.
Yeah, and I would just add too, Carly, like when I was out in Baltimore, they're having this pilot project where they're taking electric vehicles and they're bi-directional charging back into the grid to take pressure off the grid, right? Because of the demand response from all this electrification that's happening in Maryland right now. So I think it's those kinds of pilot projects that we're going to need the PUC to advocate to Excel Energy that we start doing, or to our other providers to help this like highway of new renewable energy coming on board, and this old way of doing it, and we have to manage this. Artificial intelligence is going to be coming. All this stuff is going to be happening. That's really that we're gonna have to take into consideration. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents on that.
We have one final question in our chat. Kelsey asks, where are the majority of solar panels that are being installed in Minnesota? Where are they being made and manufactured?
That's a really good question. And I think it's going to be an evolving answer, right? Because right now, I would say most are made overseas, primarily in Asia. And it depends on who you go with, because there are various brands, right? And a lot of these, I think that the push is to have domestic manufacturing, right? I mean, you see it with even like a company called Q Cells is having a plant, I believe, in Georgia. We're trying to have everything be made more in the US, so that, I mean, there's a lot of benefits from that, everything from trying to finally reach that 40% domestic content federal tax credit to it reduces carbon emissions. I mean, it's just less of a travel. Then there's been a big battle with tariffs. You might have seen that in the news when it comes to solar tariffs, and a lot of back and forth in that arena. So I would say right now, most are probably, depending on what brand you're getting, I would say most are still probably being made across seas in Asia. But the push is to have that be a little more domestic. And I think there's a price component with that as well. I mean, I think right now it makes sense to do so. But hopefully the idea is to make it more affordable here in the US.
So Solar Bear, we on that project you all saw that Carly showed there on Lake Street. All those panels were from Haleen Solar Factory in northern Minnesota, made in Iron Mountain. The solar cells obviously come from overseas, and Martine and the folks up there, they put the panels together up there. They are opening up a new center in Rogers, Minnesota, so just up the road here, and that's going to also being able to manufacture the solar cells and sticking them on the panels. So Solar Bear likes to use folks here in Minnesota. So Haleen solar panels. We're working with Synchronous on our inverters. We work with OATI on our management systems. So just trying to really keep it as local as there's a racking company right up here by St. Cloud, that we've used for one of our other projects. So I know it's a little bit more, but I think that we're putting Minnesotans to work. So I like to think that that's a good thing, and then it also just goes ahead and expands, our industrial like outreach. So that's kind of where we're at with it. But like James said, I mean, let's be honest, 70-80% of the panels are probably coming from China. Let's just be honest. But there are folks that are doing it now here in the States, and there's a lot of good incentives, like once again from the Inflation Reduction Act, that are helping support that.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's good to see some local manufacturing happening there. Very quickly, while I still have a few of you left with us, I just wanted to share we have 2 upcoming sessions this fall. We're moving into food and ag related topics. So coming up on the 18th, climate impacts on Minnesota agriculture, and on November 7th, food security issues here on campus. Just wanted to share that. A quick plug, and thank you so much to our 3 speakers, Bob, James, Jennifer. Thank you for taking your time out this morning to be here with us. And we hope to see some of you at a future session. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.